Game of Thrones Season 7 Episode 6 Beyond the Wall, we sure did get a lot of references to Dany not being able to have children, and of course we also had a reference to Jon having children. We had the scene north of the wall with Jon and Jorah, where they're talking about Longclaw, and Jorah tells Jon, "May it serve you and your children well." We had the scene with Dany and Tyrion back at Dragonstone, where Tyrion brings up the line of succession. And of course we had the scene with Jon and Dany on the boat, where Dany reiterates that she cannot have children, and of course the many references to the dragons being the only children she'll ever have. So it seems to me that Jon and Dany are going to have a baby, and what the hell does that mean for our story? Okay, so let's first establish that most of us do believe that Jon is the Song of Ice and Fire. Obviously, R plus L equals J has basically been confirmed, of course not to Jon himself quite yet, and I think that will happen in Season 8, but the point being here that he is the son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark, and that seems to be the main thread running through our story. Of course, a lot of us also believe that Jon and Dany are Azor Ahai, the prince that was promised, whatever label you want to slap on them, but both in different ways. Dany fits this prophecy literally about waking dragons from stone, born amidst salt and smoke, etc., and Jon also fits this in a metaphorical way, so I think we would all agree they're both going to be key players in saving the damn world. But the point being here is they potentially could have a child. Could their child be the prince or princess that was promised and change the world in a different way, not necessarily save it? So first off, let's establish, can Dany actually have children? It is believed in both books and show that she cannot have children, that she is barren, but at the end of A Dance with Dragons, Dany does bleed again, indicating she is having a menstrual cycle again, or it could perhaps be a miscarriage from Daario or his Dar. But it all seems to go back to the Mirri Maz Duur prophecy, if that's even a prophecy at all. And of course, this is when Mirri Maz Duur put Khal Drogo in a catatonic state, and Dany asks her simply, when will he be as he was? And of course, Mirri Maz Duur basically says never, but in a more profound way. So really quickly, let's run through what Mirri Maz Duur said one more time, and talk a little bit about what the prophecy means, if it's actually a prophecy at all. Now, the first part of this little prophecy here is when the sun rises in the west and sets in the east. Now, that could mean a few things here. A lot of people think it could be Quentyn Martell from the books. Quentyn Martell is the son of Doran Martell. In the books, he was sent over from Westeros to find Dany and try to marry her to fulfill an older pact where a princess from Dorne was supposed to marry Viserys before he was killed. But it could also reference other things such as Jon rising in the west, actually coming to power at the Night's Watch, rising to Lord Commander, and then of course in the show, rising to King in the North, as in the sun, as in Rhaegar's son. Or it could be a reference to the long night itself, where the sun does rise again in the west, as in Westeros itself. Now, the second part of this is when the seas go dry. Now, that could refer to a lot of things. It could refer to something in the Great Grass Seas over in Essos going dry, as in winter is coming to the whole entire world, and that would kill off the grass and essentially make it dry. It could refer to the actual seas freezing, as we saw on the show in Season 7. During the opening credits, we see the seas starting to freeze around the wall in that area as winter moves south. And the next part of this prophecy is when the mountains blow in the wind like leaves. So that could be a couple different things as well from the books or show. It could represent the pyramids in Meereen, where the dragons are out in the books and kind of making a damn mess all over the place as they kind of nest around in the pyramids. So that could represent the mountains actually blowing in the wind like leaves. Or it could also represent something like we see in the show related to the White Walkers, where we do see this mist coming over the mountains as they approach. We saw this in Hardhome, and now we saw it again in Season 7, Episode 6, Beyond the Wall. When they captured the White and it kind of screamed for help, we saw the damn storm coming over the mountain. And if you stretch your imagination, you could kind of take that as mountains blowing in the wind like leaves. And of course, the last part of this prophecy is where people get mixed up a bit, including myself, but it actually says, when your womb quickens again and you bear a living child. So in other words, what I'm saying here with the Mirri Maz Duur prophecy is for her to meet Drogo again, all these things would potentially have to happen, including when your womb quickens again and you bear a living child. So basically what I'm saying here is that this prophecy relates to when she's going to have a child again, not if she can have a child again. Having a child is a requirement to fulfill this prophecy to meet Khal Drogo again. And of course, Khal Drogo is now dead, so I think what that means is that if and when she has a child, that will certainly mean death to her, as in meeting Khal Drogo again in the afterlife. If this thing's a prophecy at all. If Jon and Dany did have a child, that child certainly would be an ice and fire child in the sense of having Stark and Targaryen blood, but it would be more of a Targaryen child. As far as blood goes, that child would be 3/4 Targaryen, so not really the typical half and half ice and fire baby we're thinking about, when we think about somebody like Jon Snow, the only person in the history of our story to come from both houses directly. And of course, a baby born at this time in our story would not have time to actually save the damn world itself. The war is starting now, it's already here, and that's what Jon and Dany are actively doing right now. Now, this child would fit the prince that was promised the Azor Ahai prophecy in the sense that it would come from the line of Rhiaanon and Aerys. Of course, both Jon and Dany come from that line, so any offspring they had would of course be from the same line, which was prophesied by a woods witch during the tragedy at Summerhall, that the savior of the world would come from the line of Aerys II, the Mad King, Dany's father, and his sister wife Rhiaanon. So essentially what I think here as far as Mirri Maz Duur is she was saying basically never. She was basically saying you'll never meet Khal Drogo again, he'll never be as he was, which of course is why Dany ended up snuffing him out with a pillow. So essentially meeting Drogo again equals death. So this tells me that Dany and Jon will in fact have a child, but she may very well die in childbirth, and that child won't save the world directly like Jon and Dany are doing now because you simply don't have time for a child to grow up. The White Walkers are not going to wait around for a child to grow up and be some savior or hero, but that baby could save the world in a different way once Jon and Dany are successful in some way, shape, or form to defeat the Night King and the White Walkers and save the damn world. Literally, things have to change in this world because feudalism can't continue. Otherwise, Dany is not actually going to ever break the wheel and keep the damn thing broken. So I think the idea here is that there's going to be a bittersweet ending, and that Dany may in fact die in childbirth just like her own mother did, and of course just like Jon's real mother Lyanna did as well. But this child could be the prince that was promised in the sense that it would change the world by changing the actual system of government where all people prosper under a different system, because feudalism is sloppy and it simply doesn't work because there's always different feuds about who should sit on some throne somewhere as far as a monarch. So this child could be in that sense the savior of the world, so they don't make the same mistakes again. And I think at the end of this damn thing, regardless of who's alive or who's dead, there needs to be at least a hint of them actually changing the system that they live under so all people can prosper or have that opportunity, rich or poor, highborn or lowborn, and that would ensure that damn wheel that Dany wants to break so bad remains broken, so their child could in fact be a dream of spring. Anyway guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Will Dany and Jon have a baby, and what the hell does that mean for our story? As usual, thank you for all the support, especially to you guys on Patreon, and a huge shout out to my executive Patreon smoke screen producers, Griffin, Bwell Guy 10, Lala, Kissa, Powell, Marc Joseph aka The Snow in Winterfell, Marylin, Bentley, JoAnna, Sean Hayes, Anonymous, Doc Holiday, Goska, HoonJive, Karen D20, Nicki Snow, Lo Horton, Erin Habig, Ashley May, Dean Bwell, Karla Stark, John Carey, Anastasia, Jason Landers, Rhiaanon, DTizSmith, and MJW. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the support. And be sure to stop by the live stream Sunday night at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, right after the Game of Thrones season finale, episode 7. This will be a charity fundraiser event. All proceeds would go to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So again, let's use the power and popularity of this TV show. It's a great place and a wonderful charity for these kids and their family. So I look forward to you guys stopping by, and be sure to subscribe to get everything, and be sure to click that damn notification bell so you're notified when I drop a new video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you